Yo, what's good? Des Rocksteady at King of the Pit TV signing in. Little research session. Yeah, we're going to learn a little bit today. Classes in session, metalheads. We're going to learn a little bit about Anthrax. We're going to go into the first record. And then, well, we'll have a little overview of the first record, dependent on how much material is given to us. I've only just listened to the second record, so then we're going to go on and learn a little bit about the history surrounding that record. Let me make myself a little bit smaller. I'm sure you don't need my ugly mug on screen right about now. So, we've got the wiki open. You tell me if anything of this is incorrect or if you have any disputes as to what we're saying. I don't need to have a look at the discography right now. Anthrax is a American thrash metal band from New York City. Formed in 81 by rhythm guitarist Scott Ian. I thought Scott Ian was on bass guitar, to be fair with you. So already I've learned something. And Dan Lilker. Group is considered one of the leaders of the thrash metal scene from the 80s and is part of the big four of the genre, along with Metallica, Megadeth and Slayer. Let's see when these others were formed in comparison. Metallica was formed in 81 too. Megadeth was formed in 83. And Slayer was formed in 81. They were all formed in 81, essentially. They were also one of the first thrash metal bands, along with Overkill and Nuclear Assault, to emerge from the East Coast. When was Overkill about? Overkill, 80. Overkill beat them to the punch there. Nuclear Assault, mid to late 8. Oh, no, formed in 84. Alright, makes sense. To emerge from the East Coast. The band's current lineup consists of Scott Ian, drummer Charlie Benante, bassist Frank Bello, Joey Belladonna, who's front in the band, and lead guitarist Jonathan Donaze. Anthrax's lineup has changed numerous times over the career, leaving Ian as one of the only constant members of the band. Ian and Benante, who replaced one-time drummer Greg D'Angelo in 83, are the only two members to appear on all of Anthrax's albums, while Bello has been a member of Anthrax since 84, replacing Lilker. Okay, cool. So after cycling through a number of members, Anthrax released the debut Fistful of Metal with singer Neil Turbin. So Neil got kicked, right? Is current lead vocalist and songwriter of heavy metal band Death Riders. I've never heard of Death Riders, and a member of hard rock band Bleed the Hunger. Turbin was replaced by Belladonna later that year, stabilising the band's lineup. I wonder if Neil Turbin wanted that. I bet he's gutted at this point because he's still in bands. It'd probably be better to be an Anthrax, wouldn't it? Anthrax's third full-length, Among the Living, brought the band mainstream success for the first time and is considered one of the greatest thrash metal albums. Cool, so we're going to get onto that one. That's going to be really good by the sounds of things. I'm not going to go no further in regards to that overview, purely as we haven't gone that far into the discography, but we've got genres here: thrash metal, speed metal, heavy metal, groove metal, and alt metal. I heard they take an alt metal approach to things later on in the discography, is that right? The history of formation, 81 to 82. Anthrax was formed in Queens, which I associate Queens with 50 Cent, to be honest with you. New York City in 81 by guitarist Scott Ian and Dan Lilker with Ian's friend Dave Weiss on drums. The band was named after the disease of the same name, which Ian saw in a biology textbook, chosen because it sounded sufficiently evil. I don't think the band's sound is very evil, though. Lilker originally intended Scott Safari to play bass in the band during their early phases as a cover band. I wonder what they were covering. The initial lineup was completed by singer John Connolly. Who's this guy then? Alright, he was the lead vocalist and guitarist of Nuclear Assault. He looks like a nerd, him, doesn't he? In this day and age. Bassist Paul Kahn. Kahn was briefly replaced by bassist Kenny Kushner before Lilker took over on bass. Future Hitman singer Dirk Kennedy replaced... How many lead singers did they have initially? Fucking hell. Right, let's get to the point. Until Ian's former schoolmate Neil Turbin joined the band late in 82. Turbin joined the band partly because of guitarist Walls, who Turbin later said was the best guitarist Anthrax ever had. The band recorded its first demo tape during that time. Yeah, I bet the guitarist that came after Mr. Walls had big boots to fill if that was the case then. The Neil Turbin era and debut album. The band's first performance with Neil Turbin was at the Great Gildersleeves at a New York club at September 82. This lineup played regularly in the New York, New Jersey area over the next several months. Anthrax was also on the same bill as the up-and-coming Metallica for several shows in the spring of 83. Imagine that. Having a ticket to see these two. I wonder what crowds they were pulling back then. Guitarist Walls left Anthrax that summer because of friction with Ian, and drummer D'Angelo left a month later. Turbin said that he seriously considered leaving because one of the loss of Walls and D'Angelo, but he stuck it out for another year. Walls was replaced by Bob Berry, who was replaced by Turbin by Rhett Forrester of Riot. Never listened to Riot before. Glam rock band or something, eh? Formerly known as Riot V, they're called now. 75 band. Probably some rock band, right? Straightforward heavy metal. Berry was soon replaced by Dan Spitz, who was previously a member of the New Jersey band Overkill. Right. Drummer Charlie Benante replaced... this is all just about replacements. Who gives a flying... Zazula's new record label, Megaforce Records, had recently released Metallica's debut album, Kill 'Em All, to great success. In late '83, Zazula agreed to sign Anthrax, and the band recorded the Soldiers of Metal single, which was produced by Ross the Boss of Manowar. We learned that Manowar didn't like moshing in a mosh research video. The B-side was the song Howling Furies, which was taken from a previous demo with Greg D'Angelo on drums, his only Anthrax recording, right? Anthrax released their debut, Fistful of Metal, in '84. Former guitarist Wall said he was shocked that contributions throughout the album was shocked that the album was released. My bad. Let's revise. Former guitarist Wall said he was shocked that the album was released without giving credit to Walls as the primary songwriter on Panic and Metal Thrashing Mad, as well as smaller songwriting contributions throughout the album. Here, this is the business, people. You write a word, you get a third, alright? You write a word. Keep that in mind when you're in your band and nobody else thinks it's going to go nowhere. Just sneak in there with your songwriting credit. You never know. Tensions were building between Lilker and the rest of the band for various reasons, eventually leading to the band firing Lilker, who would soon form the band Nuclear Assault with former Anthrax roadie / vocalist John Connolly. Lilker was replaced by Benante's nephew and roadie Frank Bello. The band went on a successful US tour, opening for Raven and others to support Fistful of Metal. I like the band name Raven. I've never heard of Raven. English heavy metal band, formed in '74 by the Gallagher brothers. There's only one set of Gallagher brothers, people, especially from Britain. So Raven, I'm gonna have to wipe you off there. In August '84, Turbin and Anthrax went their separate ways after long-standing personal issues. In his book Eddie Trunk's Essential Hard Rock and Heavy Metal, music journalist Eddie Trunk admits pressuring John Zazula, Scott Ian, and Anthrax into firing Turbin because of his personal taste in vocals. This guy Eddie Trunk is a Machiavellian mastermind. What's he done that for? And he's there admitting it, just like, yeah, I got him to fucking fire him. I didn't like the vocals. Singer Matt Fallon was briefly hired in '84, but he and the band soon parted ways. Anthrax at the start had about 20,000 different vocals. The remaining members decided to play live shows as a four-piece build as The Diseased, with Scott Ian on vocals, performing hardcore punk covers until a permanent singer could be found. I would love to know what hardcore punk songs they were covering. Can anybody get me that information? Initial Joey Belladonna era, '84 to '92. So I wonder what happened afterwards. John Bush came into the band. Fucking hell. So in '84, Joey Belladonna was chosen as the new vocalist. The Armed and Dangerous EP marked Belladonna's recording debut of Anthrax. The '92 reissue of the EP included the two songs from the Soldiers of Metal single that Neil Turbin had performed on them. Anthrax's second album, Spreading the Disease, was released in '85. It was well received as both a technical leap from the Fistful of Metal record and as a more original effort, and remains one of the band's most highly regarded albums. I didn't think much of it. With leftover studio time from these sessions, Ian Benante and former bandmate Dan Lilker collaborated with vocalist Billy Milano to form the side project Stormtroopers of Death. What a great way to use that leftover time now. I'm wondering what business with the studio was established in order for this effort to be done, because, you know what I mean, from my experiences of so far, you just pay for a day rate, 2-day rates, or you know what I mean, get into the studio, see how long it takes, get it done, pay for the result. Like getting a tattoo, really. But and I wonder if the label has paid for it or the band's paid for it and so forth. I'm curious as to what the business was. And recorded the album Speak English or Die in 3 days. It was released in '85 and is now considered a pioneering crossover record, featuring one of the earliest examples of the blast beat on record. Okay, cool. So the US tour to support spreading the disease, opening for Sabbath, which is crazy, was cancelled after 4 dates due to Sabbath singer Glenn Hughes' voice problems. Who the heck is Glenn Hughes? Who the heck is Glenn Hughes and why was he doing vocals for Sabbath? Does Sabbath historian want to let me know what the deal is that? In April '86, hold on, Anthrax attempted to first tour to Europe, beginning in Bochum, Germany, supported by Overkill and Agent Steel. The tour included a show near Chernobyl, Ukraine, immediately after the Chernobyl disaster. Later that year, Anthrax toured Europe with Metallica. The tour began on September 10th and ended... I wonder who headlined that tour. Told you it was Metallica. I wonder what the deal is with that. The tour began on September 10th at St David's Hall and ended on 26 September in Sweden. Swedish show was Anthrax's last performance before the bus accident the following day, which killed Metallica bassist Cliff Burton. Wow, so that was on tour with Anthrax. That's wild. That's fucking crazy. So... we'll leave that bit there because we're going on to Among the Living next. So let's have a little deek in regards to the 2 records that were put out. Fistful of Metal. Fistful of Metal is the debut studio album by... Alright, cool. Right, we've got a lot of information here. So I'm going to do a separate video on this one, alright? And we're going to look into both of the records separately. So I'll see you on the flip side.